Nation. Harry here, and I just was telling these two cats, I can't believe a month has gone by that fast. Something's going on. It's speeding up, and thankfully so. Let's get to 2021. Back with Ken and Michael. Michael in Australia, Ken down in Houston, Texas. Gents, how you doing?
So far, so good.
Excellent.
All
Excellent.
right.
Good to see you.
So we're going to do a double header, as they say in baseball. So first, Ken, we're going to talk about a situation you were aware of. And let me go back to my notes. A friend apparently regarding scan checks, financial hacking and scan checks. So without naming your friend, what's the story with your friend and scan checks?
Well, just a little bit of a technical correction. It wasn't really a hacking. In fact, one of my presentations I give is so a lot of people say I've been hacked. When they haven't been hacked, they have been tricked.
Okay.
Hacking happens when they're not at the computer or they're asleep or whatever. But this time it was more commonly, this friend and client got tricked into letting the criminals into his system remotely. And this is a longtime friend of mine who's a few years older than I am, and I'll turn 74 in a couple of weeks. So he's old,
Okay.
but
Okay.
at any rate, he was telling me this story, and I obviously determined right away he had been conned. And so as I was asking him more details about how it unfolded and what he did, because just to back up a little bit, he had a problem with his printer. And he called me. I was teaching a class that day and the next day, and so I didn't get back to him until a couple of days later. And this is when we're having the conversation. He said, well, I had a problem with the printer. When I couldn't get a hold of you, I called HP. I said, how did you call HP? Well, I went on the web and did a Google search for HP support. And it's, Ron, you've been conned. What did it cost you? Well, it's only $400, but it was for a lifetime contract. And they fixed it. Well, they fixed it by having him turn the computer off and back on again. But
Yeah.
at any rate, I said, well, you've been conned. It's a scam. And I went through the whole deal. Said, call your bank, your credit card company, cancel the charge. They'll recognize what it is. Oh, no, they wouldn't take a credit card. They said my computer had been infected, and so that'd be too dangerous. I said, you didn't go buy some iTunes gift cards, did you? Oh, no, I know better than that. They had me write a check and scan it in. So that's the first I've heard of that. Of course, with that one transaction, they got his bank name and routing and transit number, his account number, his check number, his signature. So it was game over. And obviously he had to close that account. And but one of the points here is that the criminals are always innovating. They're coming up with new ideas, new ways to get your money, which will lead up to another one of those in just a minute here. But at least in that case, he was relatively on top of it. The potentially bad thing is he's a contractor, and he sometimes gets like a $50,000 deposit to buy materials and that sort of thing. And fortunately, he did stop it before anything had actually been taken from his account. But that was just lucky timing on his part.
Well, and I think there's a legitimate topic in the context of SMB Nation, because not everything we talk about has to be bits and bytes. Okay. I mean, and I had this conversation earlier this week, and, the person on the other side of the Zoom camera, their eyes rolled a little bit because I used that overused term, trusted business advisor, that tired old term, but we are. But we are, because we're right in the epicenter of the operations of a business, man.
This was classic social engineering. It has nothing to do with bits and bytes. It's believing what somebody on the other end of that connection was telling you.
Yeah. Well, hey, off to Michael down in Australia. So, Michael, you have something going on, denial of service or so on. What's news? What's news this month?
Let's break it down to how it happened. Let's talk about denial of service at the very end, because I'm going to talk about something everyone's familiar with, and that's, of course, ransomware. But this one has a bit of a twist to it. So what's happened in this particular case is a customer fell for a phishing sort of email. Somebody got access to the server, but they got access to the server a good month before they did anything. Now, in that month, you can do a lot of observing. You can put keyloggers on things. You can see you can packet sniff. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff. You can steal bank account details, payroll information, whatever you want. And they did that. What they also did was they set up a very large cloud-based system, let's say it's like Dropbox or something like that, and uploaded an entire backup of the server and every workstation to the cloud. And they took a month. And of course, who has fantastic speed internet these days? I do. And of course, this backup just zips straight up to the cloud. Then before they struck, they observed each backup device being attached and wiped them. There was no backup. Then they struck with the encryption, and they hit them very hard. They encrypted everything across the whole system. And then they hit them with the ransom note. Now, here's the twist. The first twist is we want you to pay a certain amount of money to get your stuff back. We know you can't get it back because we've wiped all your backups. The second thing we would like you to do is pay an extra amount of money for us to remove the data we've put on the dark web that we're actively going to sell to your competitors and anybody who wants it if you don't pay the ransom. Now, at that point, it's looking pretty bad. I know here in Australia, we have the thing called the notifiable data breach. And I know interstate and overseas, there's different rules, different privacy things, and fines associated with leaking information out. This customer happens to build stuff for the Australian military. So there is stuff in here that to tender and all the rest of it and specifications, which are a little bit top secret. You don't want that stuff out there in some sort of a data breach, but it's out there. Here's the next twist. To get back the server and every workstation was in Australian dollars, $75,000 per device.
Oh man.
Now,
Jeez.
not such a problem except for the fact that the users of these machines have synchronized their iTunes, which includes all their contact information and photos and personal stuff. They've done their taxation stuff on their work computers. So suddenly the staff have a stake in this. The final twist, their VoIP-based SIP phone system stopped working. They got hit with a denial of service attack to their phone system. Then, attached to that, their website got taken down. This customer lost their line of business application, their CRM, their communications, their emails. They lost all their military specs and things that they had to do with whatever it is to do with their tender. They lost all their client information, their staff information. Then they couldn't get their backups back. Now their data's out there for competitors to see, and they can't take phone calls, and their website's down. This business, it's all over. There's hardly any way to recover. So we're looking at people who are planning these attacks for many weeks before they strike. They're in your system. You don't notice that they're there. They're making sure you cannot recover. And then when you do try and recover, they hit you from the denial of service attack point of view and take down whatever you've got at your office. That could be your cloud-based Office 365. It could be your voice over IP phone system. You could be running some back-end database there. It's all down. It's not working. And even if that was working and people could actually get in touch with you, they go to your website and it's not there. It's off the air, or it's in WordPress and you haven't updated it and they've put something into there, an add-on that's taken WordPress down. And that's what we're starting to see. I started communicating with the hacker using a throwaway sort of email address that I had made just to find out a bit more information. And I actually literally got them to send me screenshots of the data sitting in a cloud repository. When I actually saw this folder system, there was a folder per date. Inside each of these dated folders was this customer and a list of hundreds of other customers that they had hacked on that same day. So I was looking at a repository of data for this server and hundreds of other customers on that one day, let alone all the other folders that were there. And then of course, the customer cannot communicate with the outside world now. So we're not only looking at, okay, we've got to recover from backups, we're looking at, we've got to recover this business. Now, the silliest thing from this customer's point of view, for $750 Australian, they would have had cyber insurance, they would have had business continuity assurance, they would have had notifiable data breach insurance, and they didn't take up the contract. In this kind of scenario, unless you've got a backup in your hand that hasn't been tainted, or a backup in the cloud that hasn't been tainted, you need to have insurance, people. You need to make sure that your customers have insurance. If you are a big enough target, people will find a way in. And 4 weeks sitting on the server, that was a long time that people, those hackers could plan the best way to cripple this company. And they have crippled this company. They're targeting 5-user computer systems up to hundreds of thousands. They are targeting any business that they can hold for ransom. That was my experience from this week. We knew it was coming. We knew it was coming. We knew that they were getting smarter about how they attack, and they're making sure that you've got nowhere to run. And in this instance, other than selling the director's home or something like that, there's no way they're going to be able to recover all those debts for all those machines. And of course, all those staff, their information is now probably out on the dark web as well.
Yeah.
So that's this week's antidote.
Boy, it reminds me of a keynote.
Client of yours.
Sorry?
Ken, go ahead.
A managed client of yours.
This is actually, let's call them an acquaintance. They're not really a client because they took their IT sort of in-house, and that person happened to be conveniently away on holidays when this happened. But anyway, they've come back to a bit of a disaster. But yes, it's one of those things where people believe they can manage things themselves. What small business owners don't realize is that they're in small business and running a business because they're good at something. It might be servicing cars, it might be selling things, it might be something, but it's not normally IT. And MSPs and IT professionals, we get to see hundreds of different types of customers with hundreds of different problems every day. We get to be on top of all what's going on out there. We get notifications, we've got peers to talk to. So we're the best people to make those sort of security discussions and solutions and fix things. When people take their IT in-house and they ask the accountant who happens to spend a lot of time with computers to manage the IT, things don't go so well. And even with trusted advisors like ourselves out there to talk to, they don't come to us very often. They're making decisions before it gets to us. And of course, that leaves you in a situation where they're not really our customer, but they're our acquaintance. And therefore, we try our best, but you should really listen to the experts. I know when my car breaks, I go to a mechanic, and if he says I need to fix something, I don't know what it is I'm fixing, but I fix it because he says it needs to be fixed for safety. And I just accept it because he knows his job. And the fish and chip maker who makes the food, they know their job. And the person who fixes tires, they know their job. So there's a place for all of us. And to do it properly, we get the experts to do the job.
And the biggest problem is just the old expression that they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah,
exactly.
So and I've heard other, in fact, even texts that say, well, I don't need to take your class. I can just Google and find the results. Yeah. And my response is that the answers are easy. The hard part is coming up with the right questions, knowing kind of what the problem could be, much less the details of how to do a proper search for a solution. But again, preaching to the choir.
Well, I'll end on this. Your storytelling, Michael, and all factual, but the reminds me of a keynote I heard several years ago at a tech event. I'm going to forget the ISV. It's over on the IT Pro side. It's not an MSP vendor, but in any event, they had the former CFO of Harley Davidson. Okay, and he's quite a good speaker, and he's up there doing the do on day one, and he had this line when Harley got in trouble, probably the first time, and I do think they went into bankruptcy. So this is some time ago, and they came back. But he walked into the CEO's office and said, "You're about to have the worst day of your life." Actually used another word, but there's women and children on the line. But so you can use that line with your acquaintance. You're about to have the worst week of your life. Hey guys, next time we get together, I'm going to make a note. Let's talk about cyber insurance. Why don't we all take it upon ourselves to maybe do a little homework and talk about that, because we'll be coming into 2021, and I think that's a really good conversation. You know, Michael, I think of it this way. In the United States right now is the healthcare renewal period for healthcare insurance, right? End of year, all that. I need to go online and see if I can, adjust my plan and lower what I pay. But I will assure you this, I will have healthcare insurance. There's a responsibility there somewhere. But hey, guys, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks.
Thanks, Harry. Take care. Michael, good seeing you always.
See you later, guys.